I've worked at some of the largest retailers on the planet. You think they all have it figured out, but Shopify really does.
You can build a totally custom application, and by doing that, year over year, we've been able to dramatically increase conversion rate. And that's game changing for average order value and ultimately how much we make per visit to our website.
With Cascade Platinum Plus, I load this and get this. Dare to dish differently.
The key to great skin is exfoliating.
What's that? All right. Welcome to Ignite. I'm Brady.
And I'm Chiron.
And thank you for being here.
Oh, wow, yeah, great. Woo! So I see a lot, well, I don't see right now, but I did see a lot of familiar faces out there and some new ones, but we're going to start tonight by telling you a little bit about what you're about to see. Ignite Talks was started in 2006 by Brady and his friend Bree in Seattle, and it started as kind of a geek night out where they were in a bar and they got their friends together and they were like, let's talk about geeky ideas over beer. And just to make it interesting, we're going to cap everybody at 5 minutes, and then we're going to make the slides auto-advance, just to, give it a little extra punch. So 18 years later, Ignite Talks has been hosted in more than 350 cities all over the world. There have been thousands of events and probably tens of thousands of talks. Events have happened on every inhabited continent in the world. So yeah, it's pretty cool. And this is our 17th event here in San Francisco. And we've been at the Bravo before, and it's really great to be back. So the format for Ignite is very specific. And basically, every speaker tonight that you're going to see, I think we have about 15 speakers, is going to talk for 5 minutes about something they care about a lot. And they're going to have exactly 20 slides, and the slides are going to auto-advance every 15 seconds. They do not have control over their slides.
And that's kind of the fun of it. Now, your job is to cheer them on. Your job is to make them feel like rock stars. So if they make a joke, what are you going to do?
Yeah!
If they make a mistake, what are you going to do?
Yeah!
If Keynote decides to shit the bed, what are you going to do? Yeah, that's right. So these are our 15 speakers. So when they come on stage, you are just going to go wild. And I feel bad for the live stream because this crowd is great. So let's give it another practice. All right. And that's really it for the intro. Other than that, come and join us at Zombie Village after this. They made us a special cocktail, Ignite Your Spirit. I don't know what's in it. I'm sure it'll taste good. It's a tiki bar.
Everybody's invited.
And, we can't do this without all of you. The speakers come from the community. So we would love to have more people offer up ideas, offer up their dreams, offer to come up on stage and torture themselves for 5 minutes, or maybe longer if Keynote, So sign up for our mailing list. You can find out about the events. You won't miss you won't miss the ticket sales again. And let's get to it. So our next speaker is someone I've known for over 20 years or so. He founded the website Delicious, if you happen to remember that. But now he spends his time making robots and going viral on TikTok. Please welcome out Joshua Schacter.
So for a few years, I've been doing generative art on plotters, putting pen and ink on paper. Sometimes on robots that I've built, sometimes on old Hewlett-Packards. This is a couple of examples of them. I used to post them to social media. I guess I still do, but no one watched, right? I got the requisite 100 views. This talk isn't really about that, though. These are the kind of, I imagine people like the soft noises. I attached a chocolate 3D printer extruder to a CNC machine and put acrylic in it and tried to do paint, and it was a terrible mess. It sort of worked. And then one day I put a bunch of dots, and my code was really crappy. And it was sort of, one of those unsatisfying videos. And I posted that, and people got really upset. So I thought, wow, this is something I can work with. And some people danced to it. It was pretty weird, but. So.
If you go in a line, it'll be faster. If you go in a line, it'll be quicker if you go in a line. I think you're going side to side. You should go in a line and you go fast. Just go in a line.
A lot of people were very, very upset about all of this. So I realized that people are emotionally connecting to them. So this one is bad day at the Circle Factory. It makes a mistake. People dance to that too. I realized I could manufacture rage with robots. People emotionally connected to these things. It was crazy. These are now getting in the millions of views. Lots of responses.
Circle, circle, circle. I love you. Circle, circle. Wait, did I confess too soon? I confessed too soon. Never mind, never mind.
So people would ask for stuff. They asked for mazes all the time. So I thought, how do I fuck up a maze? So it just went right past the exit. So I learned the rules of this sort of little medium, right? You have 12 to 15 seconds. This plotter didn't do circles very well, so everything is straight lines, and then do the bad thing at the end. This one is more of the same, even faster. I sort of wanted the videos to be sort of traumatic. I put my email address in my profile at this point, figuring I'm going to get some hot influencer money. I got an offer to do an ad for an OCD therapy app, which I thought was kind of cruel, so I passed. There were a lot of ads asked to do children's clothing stuff. I tried putting myself in the video, and this one sort of struck gold at exactly the right time. AI was becoming big. And that one blew up enormously, right? Lots of people copied it. I mean, I was at a conference and my phone kept dying. It's something like, what's it, 1 million comments or something like that? My phone kept dying over and over at this conference. Here's one where I put a receipt printer. It was ChatGPT listening to people's talking on a live stream. This would cap out at 25,000 viewers. You've never seen it. You can print out an entire roll of the paper in 10 minutes flat. I thought this was a really charming thing it said, but mostly people tried to get it to write curse words. Thank you. So what happened? You end up locked in with the constraints of why you became famous in the first place. It becomes very difficult to sort of get out of there, right? So I was doing one video a day, for months at a time, and it was just too much. So I stopped and went back to art, and that's it. That's where we ended up. Thank you.
Thank you, Joshua. Our next speaker is a travel writer and guidebook author who has visited all 7 continents. And when she travels, she always packs a luxury scented candle and boards the plane with her left foot first. And you can ask her why after the show. Please welcome Mova Morgan.
I'm terrified of snakes, and some of you probably are too. When I was 4 years old, the belt that I thought that my mom dropped on our back porch turned out to be a copperhead, which met its fate at the end of my dad's garden hoe. And that's when my phobia of reptiles began. And inside the house where it was safe, I played a lot of Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, just seeing the world through the eyes of an international woman of mystery, planted a seed of curiosity in me, and that developed into a travel journalism career that's taken me all over the world. And every time we travel, we get an opportunity to step outside of our comfort zone. And I have come face to beady-eyed face with more reptiles than 4-year-old me would have ever nightmared of. So I don't know, it's just really weird. Like, I just can't stand the way that they move. Like, they're really fast, and snakes don't have limbs, and they kind of move to the side, and like, it's honestly just really weird. But it's actually also science. The snake detection theory says that the human brain has been conditioned to fear serpentine forms because when we see pictures of them, our brains actually have a different response than they do when they see pictures of other animals. And so researching this was actually horrifying for me because I had to ask Siri to tell me the answer of what color a copperhead was. And so on my first research trip to the Galapagos Islands, I encountered 4 of the endemic iguana species there, and I actually learned that iguanas are pretty chill. And that made it super easy when I had to go on a hike and crawl over literally hundreds of them piled on top of each other. And it's actually pretty hilarious when a marine iguana spits water out of its snout. Like, it's really hard to fear a creature when you catch it shooting snot rockets. And you don't actually even have to really encounter a real reptile to have a fear response to it, as I discovered during a snorkeling trip in the Brazilian Pantanal. The Rio Sucuri translates to the Anaconda River in English. And this is actually, luckily, one of the most crystal clear rivers in the world. And that made it really easy when I had to go for a snorkel. And my guide also told me that the anacondas stick to the side, so it was really easy. And on a trip to Qatar, my guide actually just snatched a snake out of a dune and threw it at us. I'll show you the video at the bar later. And it ended up actually being fake, which was not funny at all. And I was actually really grateful when a gecko tried to make a nest in my hair on a guidebook trip to Bali. I just stayed awake and stared at the ceiling all night, and it was actually good because a deadly earthquake actually hit that evening, and I was already awake, so it was really easy for me to bounce out of my hotel room. But, you know, getting outside of your comfort zone, it doesn't always necessarily mean you have to encounter a phobia. Sometimes it's just about doing something that you really normally wouldn't have before, like the Harry Potter studio tour that I did when I was doing a guidebook to London. I watched the movies and fell asleep, but I figured maybe I'll take a BuzzFeed quiz and like learn something, and I learned that I'm actually in the Slytherin house. So I'm a snake. Great, of course I am. Another way that most people get out of their comfort zone when they're traveling is just simply by experiencing another culture. And I did a trip to South Korea for 6 weeks, and this is the first place I went where I didn't know the language, so I figured immersion is the way to go, and I ended up staying in Airbnbs of people whose like they rent out their childhood bedrooms. So I'm hanging out with these parents, and one of them ate my leftover pizza, so in atonement, brought home a pizza and wanted to cook a home-cooked meal for me, and then told me that I was actually going to this place that, like, they're really famous for octopus, and so the dad gave me some money, and I go, and I figure I'll just, like, bring some octopus home because we're gonna have, like, a home-cooked meal. And if you didn't know, like, once an octopus is unalived, it will actually continue moving for up to an hour. And so my bus ride back was about an hour and a half. And I got home and I was like, is this thing still moving? And it wasn't. But my host parents thought it was hilarious because it was actually a joke. Like, he didn't really, they just gave me money, and I still don't know why. But yeah, we still had a wonderful home-cooked meal, which also included a type of octopus that was more local, and I usually, like, decline when I'm offered the gray matter of any species, but, you know, I just learned when I went to see Anthony Bourdain, he said that always eat what grandma puts on the fucking table. So I did. And so as you go out into this world and you travel, do it with a curious mind, an open heart, and a hungry stomach. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Masaveda. You've been hiding those guns. Our next speaker should probably power your website. Please welcome out Matt Mullenweg.
Hello, howdy. My name is Matt Mullenweg, and about 18 years ago, I co-founded a company called Automatic. Everything about Automatic has been a little strange since the very beginning. we built a very deliberate culture. We create a number of products. You probably have heard of WordPress and Kismet, but we also make things like long reads, Newspack, text, Day One, Tumblr. Any Tumblr users? Nice. Vault Press, Pocket Cast, and since 2005, when we started, we've expanded to be over 1,900 people, now in 95 countries. So from the very beginning, we have been fully distributed. Oh, thank you. And one part about our culture that I want to talk to you about is something we do called Sabbaticals, a benefit we offer. It's interesting, the word sabbatical comes from Sabbaticals, which means of the Sabbath. So we created this benefit. It was inspired by a board I was on, actually. Two things. A board I was on called ofgrist.org. I sent out a paper to the board on basically the importance of succession planning. So how important it is for leaders to plan for what comes after them. The other inspiration was actually here in this room, Tony Schneider. Where are you? Woo! There you go. Who was the CEO of Automatic at the time, wanted to take a 3-month road trip with his family, and his son's actually right next to him. So this 3-month road trip was an opportunity for actually me to step in and be interim CEO. So one of the things we always try to apply at Automatic, if there's something that seems good, like a sabbatical or coaching, why can't we apply it to everyone? So in actually 100, so we created this benefit for everyone. It's now available to everyone in the company that every 5 years you can get sabbatical. Mine is actually starting in 157 hours. And I am terrified. What do people do on their sabbatical? So, the benefits to the person are kind of obvious, but I'll talk about them anyway. Some people take long hikes. We have people who have done the Camino Santiago, Pacific Crest Trail. You can learn a new skill like sailing. I'm actually planning to work on sailing or learn sailing, learning chess. Some people have gotten pilot's licenses. A lot of people blog about these afterwards. If you actually go to automatic.com/sabbatical, you can see some of the different stories. And we try to design it as well to encourage it. So what happens is you get it every 5 years, but if you don't take it, like let's say you wait until 7 years to take your sabbatical, the clock doesn't start until you come back. So your next one won't be until you're 12. Although I love this benefit, I am the biggest hypocrite in the world because I have waited 18 years to take it. But like I said, it started at about 157 hours, and the upcoming, little death, if you will call it, of a sabbatical has forced a lot of things. A lot of people were worried that if people take a sabbatical, no one would come back. But we've had 669 of them so far, and only 31 people have resigned in the first year after they returned. So what happens is generally like people take that first month to kind of unplug and reset. The second month, they have a lot of fun, and then they get pretty excited. They have like an itch to come back. I called it like a little death. The preparation for it is quite interesting. Little death is also in French le petit mort. Any French speakers see the chuckles? That's also the euphemism for orgasm. Some firms, like financial firms, actually require people to take consecutive time off because it's a good way for anti-fraud. So what are some benefits to the organization? The organization prepares. If you're going to be gone for a week or even a month, your teleological goals don't really reset. But when you're going to be gone for 3 months, people figure out how to work around you. So that is part of the benefits to the organization. Also, it gives people opportunity for leadership and also just a chance to shake things up. So for example, we've changed, I think that people should hold their roles lightly. So it gives an opportunity for them to sort of think of their role as something they do, not something they are. You have to plan for this though. So at its, Automatic's now 18 years old, you have to assume that about 5% of your organization is going to be off at any amount of time. So you have to build in some slack to your organization. People also tend to cluster these around things like summer because often people want to spend it with their kids or something like that. So that planning process, though, becomes part of the organizational muscle that develops around this. And it ensures that no single person is a bottleneck to the organization. And we try to create what Nassim Taleb calls an anti-fragile organization. And that is what I got. Thank you.
Matt. Our next speaker just completed a streak of 500 days of doing the New York Times crossword puzzle, which means he completed the whole crossword puzzle every day for 500 days, which I think means he needs to get out of the house more. Please welcome Todd Kerpelman.
So yes, I have solved an awful lot of puzzles. I've even written a couple, one of which I submitted to the New York Times, and it got rejected. But my rejection came with a very nice handwritten note from Will Shortz, the editor, which I guess is enough to make me qualified to give you some advice on how to solve this thing. And my first piece of advice is do a lot of puzzles. And I know you're thinking, really, that's your big advice is I'll get better with practice. But I want you to do this because I want you to get familiar with the words that puzzle creators love, because I want these to be the first ones that pop into your head when you start doing this puzzle. Now, like the weird, obscure crosswordy words, these have fallen out of favor. You won't see those as much, but you're still going to see common words that have lots of vowels and other common letters, because these are the ones that are easy for puzzle creators to fit into the grid. And so if you see a reference to a palm or a berry, I want your first thought to be acai. If there's talk about a card game, your mind should go to Uno. Any talk about a fish, you should immediately go to eel, maybe ahi, but eel. And any type of musical instrument, think about oboe. Do this, and you're going to have a pretty good head start. The next tip I have is look for agreement between the clue and the answer. These two things tend to agree in terms of the type of speech that they are, whether they are singular or plural, the tense, whether they contain abbreviations, slang, that sort of thing. And so here, for instance, dreams is plural, and therefore the answer, record deals, is also going to be a plural noun. Prepared is a past tense verb, and that's why the answer here is hid. It's not hide or hiding. Groups is kind of a strange abbreviation, right? But that's a hint that the answer here, PTAs, is also going to be an abbreviation. And here the clue is paradisiacal, not paradise, and that's why the answer here is Edenic instead of Eden. And you can use this to your advantage. Like here, maybe I don't know the answer to most beloved, but that most is a pretty good sign that this is going to end in EST because it's a superlative. And here, sites is plural. This clue is probably going to end in S, and maybe that gives me a head start on that down answer. The other tip I have is watch out for double meanings. This is a common misdirection that puzzle creators like to throw at you, where a word in a clue you think is going to mean one thing, and it actually means another. And a sign that this is going to happen is when there is a question mark in the clue. So here, yellow slippers, we're not talking about the things that you wear on your feet. We're talking about things you might slip on, and that's how you end up with banana peels. Strips in a club is not strips the verb and club the place. It's strips the noun and club the sandwich, and that's how you end up with bacon. A variation of this is the proper noun trick. This is where one of the words in a double meaning is actually a proper noun, and they hide the fact that it is capitalized by moving it to the beginning of the clue. And so you don't notice that. And this leads to one of my favorite clues ever, which is keys on a piano. And Keys here is a person, specifically singer-songwriter Alicia Keys. I love that one. Buckwheat and others. Here we're not talking about the grain. We're talking about the character Buckwheat, who is in The Little Rascals. The next tip I have is ask yourself what day it is. Because the puzzle starts off easy on Monday, and then it gets more difficult throughout the week. Saturday is the hardest. Sunday, actually not the hardest, just the biggest, but it's sort of midweek in terms of difficulty. But this should affect how you approach the clues in the puzzle. So for instance, ante, which is, on Monday, is clued very straightforward, right? It's starting poker payment. It's basically just the definition. But on Saturday, this is clued as what to do if you'd like a hand. There's a lot more misdirection there. And so you should ask yourself what day it is and prepare for that amount of trickiness in the clue. This also means start on Monday. Don't come home tonight like all inspired to solve the puzzle. It's Thursday. It's hard. I haven't finished it yet. Like start on a Monday, go through the archives in the app, do a bunch of Mondays until you feel comfortable, then move on to Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Last tip I have is look for the theme. The longest answers in the grid all tend to follow some sort of theme. And once you figure out what that theme is, then it makes it easier to solve all those other answers. So here the theme is phrases whose meaning changes when you add an O to the end of them. And once you figure that out, then you have a good shot at figuring out some of those other long answers. So Disney classic without any special features, that's just plain Dumbo. And what Mary might have if she were into Italian sports cars is a little Lambo. And if you can't figure out the theme, you can try looking for the revealer. Sometimes in the bottom right of the grid is an answer that tells you what the theme is. So here I can see that the theme is female lead, and then what do you know, look at all these long answers, they all begin with a female archetype. You might ask yourself, hey, when is it okay to Google? And I'm going to say, you know, you do what you want. I'm not going to judge you. But make a deal with yourself that if you are going to Google something, take the time to read the Wikipedia article, because then, you know, it's not cheating, it's learning, and there's a good chance it's going to show up again. Finally, try making your own puzzle. It's, you know, hard, and you might not be any good at it, but it'll get you into the mindset of these creators and help you understand why they like the words they do, and maybe you'll end up with your very own handwritten note from Will Shortz. And with that, I'm out of time. Thank you.
Remember, kids, if you read Wikipedia, it's not cheating, it's learning. And if anyone out there is really good at Wordle, we're looking for someone for the next Ignite. So our next speaker used to be a tech world geek and is now an inner world geek. Please welcome out Amanda Ngai.
I've seen grief scream. I've seen it wail, pound cushions, howl and growl, ask to be held, undulate orgasmic, curl into a ball of shame. Each expression gave permission for my own. Grief has a million faces, voices, and we need them all to heal. When we lose someone we love, we need each other in ways most of us aren't familiar with. I have been to wakes, funerals, commemorations, and I'm not talking about casseroles, cards, or speeches. Flowers are beautiful. These are all beautiful expressions of care and love. But we also need, but there's a sacred space that's missing. We also need co-grieving that gets us into our primal nature, because grief is a wound of the animal soul. Something deep, not moved by chocolate, touched only on the surface, even by hugs. We need space to be witnessed as the animals we are. 2 years ago, I lost the person I was dating very suddenly. I was in bed for weeks, months, barely showering or eating. The corridors of my mind became my home, and my body quaked to hold it all. I was lucky that his friends understood communal grieving. A couple of months after his death, I was in a circle of his friends, expressing our emotions fully. The vulnerability and rawness and power of grief's many faces, wailing, angry, asking for touch, orgasmic, shameful. I remember thinking, you couldn't script this better. This level of heartbreaking beauty opened me more to myself, had me breathing deeply with others, and feeling more connected to them and to the dynamism of life than I had known was possible. My grief sent me on a grief investigation because, to be honest, it didn't feel like I had a choice. It resulted in my first book, which is in the lobby, a memoir told through poetry and art. And along the way, I learned that there is very little scientific evidence for the 5 stages of grief. As resilience researcher Lucy Hone said, we all grieve differently. Grief is as individual as your fingerprint. Grief is one of the many human processes that we have tried to box into comfortable and capitalistic phases and timelines because it is deeply uncomfortable and inconvenient if it takes its own time and is unpredictable. In ancient traditions like the Dogra people of West Africa, they grieve physically together, dancing a mourning dance, music playing around the clock. No one emotes or purges without physical support or touch from others. We are not meant to grieve alone. We are losing a part of ourselves, our humanity, our ability to contact the beauty and sacred in each other by not grieving physically, primally together. Many of our collective problems are expressions of unresolved trauma and unexpressed grief. With all that we are holding in the world today, collective grieving is more important than ever. We will all experience loss in this life, the recipe for grief, whether or not we allow ourselves to explore and express it. And perhaps time heals all wounds. Time is certainly required. But something more is required too. If I break my arm, the bones will do their best. They will heal whether or not my community helps to set them. But the rest of my life will look very different if they heal crooked on their own or with the help of others. How do we want our broken bones of grief to set? Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda, for that amazing talk. Let's all just take a quick breath. We're gonna switch gears again because that is what we do here. And our next speaker is maybe one of our most prolific speakers. We have lost count, but we think this might be her 7th Ignite talk. And she's gonna tell you why good sperm is hard to find. Yeah. Please welcome Connie Yang.
Might be a little sensitive, but okay. So well, here's.
Is her mic off?
No.
No. Can you turn off her mic? Great. Here you
go. Okay. Woo! We're back. We're back. All right, I'll put this in my pocket here. Okay. He was never here. Were you a ghost? All right. Slide cue up. Okay. This is about why it's incredibly hard to find good sperm. There's a sperm shortage in America, which sounds crazy, but it's super hard to both donate sperm at a sperm bank and be a known sperm donor. And that's thank you. I appreciate the validation there. This is me giving my first ever Ignite talk in 2017, which was about egg freezing. And at that time, I was like, okay, I've frozen my eggs. Actually, I've done a few more rounds. I'm totally set, right? No. I've discovered a lot more about the challenging process to the other half of making a real baby, starting with sperm banks. Right now, there's more demand and less supply. You actually have more fertility issues, so people are having babies later in life. You have more single moms, you have more lesbian couples and new family styles that are all using sperm, and there's not more sperm. In fact, 1 out of 100 men who apply to be a sperm donor actually qualify, whether it's age, height, different restrictions, and the craziest one, you can't be gay. The FDA says you can't donate sperm if you slept with a man in the past 5 years. I know. Very shocking. So they do a lot of screening on traits that you might not care about, and then no screening on traits that you might care a lot about, like IQ or mental health, things that you can't tell from a profile. So it's not really the best, but even if you qualify, that takes about 6 months. Then you have to donate in person once a week, at least, for a year. You have to abstain from sex and masturbation for 48 hours before donating. You have one sexual partner only, and you get paid $50 a pop. So if you're a guy that's well-traveled, has a busy schedule, an active love life, and is not motivated by $50, you're not gonna, that guy's not gonna be your sperm donor, at least not through a sperm bank. It's a really interesting fact to think about there. let's look at California Cryobank, which is the biggest sperm bank in the US, which at any given time has 550 donors. That is not a lot. You could swipe through that if that was Tinder in a very, very short amount of time. They also say they have the most Ivy League graduates, but they won't tell you which ones are which. For instance, this is a sample profile. You have a baby photo only. You have a description someone has written about this person, and then you have a price. He's at $35,000, which is crazy. And often you need to buy multiple vials to even try and get to a live birth. So these sperm banks are trying to protect a lot of anonymity, which doesn't actually exist anymore in our world. DNA testing can reveal a lot of parental lineage. And there's a lot of legislation that's being passed that removes closed ID. So it's a strange system. Diversity is also a really big problem at sperm banks. If you want to have a kid that looks like you and you're ethnically looking for black sperm or Hispanic sperm, that's going to be really hard to find. That's not most sperm donors. And that's a challenge that's not very easy to fix. There's also limitations to how many times each individual man can donate. In California, it's 25. In France, it's 6. So after all of that, for all that time, this is what you have. So if you want to have a kid by the same donor, you can't buy the same sperm in a few months or a year. They'll just run out. And I'm not saying all this to trash sperm banks. They're doing good things. They just are FDA regulated. They've been around since the 1950s, and they're working with a lot of systems that are really hard to change. If we look at the flip side, known donors, which are somebody like a friend is going to give you a really nice gift. So you get to bypass like the screening process that we just talked about, but you still have to go through 3 hours of psych evals. You have to go through medical evaluation, genetic testing, and you each need a lawyer to go through the paperwork. And you have a lot of questions about this new relationship. It's a really hard thing to ask. We spend a lot of time thinking about what we would be looking for in a potential donor, and a lot more time than we would, say, for like a first date or someone you want to ask a more casual favor. That's strange. And for men, this might be the first time they've thought about this. It's kind of shocking. What about compensation? This is a very time-consuming task. You have to go through a lot of lifestyle changes, and there's no favor quite like this one. You can't just buy them a cup of coffee. But we don't have a way to talk about, do we offer money? Do we ask for money? How does this even work? How do you structure a donor-child relationship? Some people want videos or photos sent once a week. Some people do in-person meetings, maybe after a certain age. What impact does this have on the donor's own future family or future children? A lot of good questions that are confusing. How does finding known donors work today? So there's Facebook groups, there's Reddit threads. This is an actual sample of strange men posting that they're willing to donate sperm, which is a little sketch for a lot of reasons. Or you ask people that you know. This is really limiting, and a lot of people are stuck there. What's the magical future here? What if it was public knowledge who was willing to donate sperm? What if there were decent compensation and matchmaking structures in place? Some kind of magical, bespoke directory for sperm donors that you could actually just browse that doesn't have all the problems of sperm banks. So, in the meantime, please spread the word. You have a lot more fun facts to drop at dinner table conversations. And if you're able to donate, consider doing so, or really think about what this could look like. Thank you. That's my talk.
I expected to see more eggplants. I know, it was pretty good. You may recognize our next speaker's voice from NPR's TED Radio Hour. She wrote the book on Korean beauty secrets and is going to talk about the artificial beauty secrets. Please welcome out Elise Hu.
A couple weeks ago, I was in Taipei, Taiwan, and I was really excited to make a TikTok about cup noodle. But this cup noodle TikTok never happened because of the shock I got when I opened up the app and saw it in selfie mode. The face looking back at me was a face, but not exactly my face. A whole array of beauty filters had worked me over. And y'all, I could not opt out. I could not turn them off. So much was going on here. Skin smoothing, skin lightening, teeth whitening, bigger anime eyes, light makeup, and even a more delicate, thinner jawline, so it sort of slimmed down my entire face. This was a lot of non-consensual filtering, or what I would call, or what someone else called, forced catfishing. And it's an example of the technological gaze at work. Women have had to play to the male gaze forever, but the technological gaze is an algorithmically driven perspective that we learn from things like filters, internalize, and then begin to perform for. And these days, it starts so young. An estimated 80% of American girls, by the time they're 13, have already used filters to alter their appearance online. And filters these days tend to be hyper-realistic and AI-generated, and they promote a certain suite of characteristics like hollow cheeks and bigger lips. And we see the gap between our real-life reflections and how we look in filters, and the digital world begins to dictate real-world beauty standards, changing not just what we expect of our bodies, but what we do to our actual bodies. And I know this because I lived in Seoul, South Korea as the NPR bureau chief there. And South Korea is all about optimizing your face and your body. If you want your vagina rejuvenated, your skull reshaped, really any part of your body enhanced or lifted or augmented in any way, have at it. It is the cosmetic surgery capital of the world. More plastic surgeons per capita than anywhere else on the planet. And Korean health ministry data shows that 53% of Korean college-age girls have already undergone some sort of work on their bodies. These days, Traptox is really big. That's getting Botox injected into the base of your neck for a slimmer and longer appearing neckline. Ditto for getting it injected into your calves. A lot of K-pop idols are rumored to have done that. But slimmer jawlines are so desirable that one Seoul plastic surgery clinic once displayed the human bones of jaws that it had shaved down in a glass vase in its lobby. This has since been removed. But this changes. So much was going on here. And it changed. In Seoul, this totally makes sense, right? Because our bodies are really predicated on, or so much of our looks are predicated on success there, or success really is tied to it, right? You would often have to put your headshot on resumes, hiring bosses would make character decisions based on your looks, and you were bullied if you were bald or big. We have an analog here in the United States, of course, with the off-the-charts, off-label use of Ozempic for weight loss. The reasoning being that we accrue social benefits for being thinner and pay a social cost or judgment or stigma for being bigger. And I think we should do something about this because digital culture is actually reshaping our faces and bodies. And I worry that under the technological gaze, our bodies become projects to be worked on forever. And if we don't slow down this body augmentation arms race, then theoretically the enhancements I saw in Seoul only get farther and farther out of reach because by definition, AI is inhuman and cyborgian. I don't want this. I don't want my children growing up in a world in which their looks are the most important things about them. It is incredibly marginalizing for everybody who can't fit in and increases the pressure on anybody who can fit in because you're constantly having to pay for interventions in order to keep up. So what do? We can challenge what the system is optimized for by changing what it means to be beautiful. Just as the correct response to homophobia isn't to make everyone straight, and the solution to racism isn't to make everyone white, the solution to fat phobia shouldn't be to make everyone skinny, and the solution to lookism shouldn't be to make everyone interchangeably pretty. It's the opposite. It's to lean into difference and diversity that's inherent to the human experience, and to break the link between appearance and worthiness, because our appearance has no bearing on our worth. Even though my face is rounder and darker than algorithms would probably optimize for, I did come here tonight wearing my real face. And my hope is that you feel comfortable and will continue to feel comfortable doing the same. Because I see a wide variety of jawlines out here tonight. And let me just say, they're all worthy.
Thank you very much, Elise. I'm not going to book a trip to South Korea anytime soon. But Elise flew up here from LA. She'll be in the lobby. So if you'd like to get a copy of her book, or if you want to chat with her, please stop by the table. Our next speaker is a money-making machine. Please welcome out Emily Quinn.
There is supposed to be audio there. And there's the question of the night. We're almost there. We'll give it another minute. All right, my name is Emily Quinn.
46 in the back, 48, 48, now 5,000, 5,000, 52, 54, 50.
My name is Emily Quinn. I'm a benefit auctioneer and fundraising MC. I've been on over 300 stages. I've raised well over $45 million for nonprofits and schools here in the Bay Area.
52, 54, 56, $58, 7,000, 7,000, 7,200. Would you go 70? You can do it. Yes, you can do it. $70 to $8,000. We've got 78. Yes, 8,000 now 82. 82 now 80.
I got started in 2008. I was producing a bachelor firefighter auction, and my celebrity volunteer newscaster auctioneer bailed on me that morning, and so I got on stage, and I had never done anything like that in my life.
Yes, 8,000 now 82. 82 now 84. 84 now 86. Would you go 86? Yes, 88,600. Sold. Bidder number 131.
So I had no idea in 2008 that that moment of hopping up on stage was not only going to launch a career and a business for me, but marriage and a family. And yes, I did marry one of those bachelor firefighters. Thank you. But the whole thing was kind of wild to me. You know, I was looking around on the stage for the first time and thinking, what is happening? This audience seems super happy. I feel super happy. What is going on? I had never been to an event like this. And as I was thinking about it, I wondered, can we understand this happiness? Can we take it out of the gala space? Can we take it out of the event space? Is there something more that we can do with what I'm starting to cultivate and understand here? It was obvious that these events were making people happy. We're building community. We're doing good. We're combating loneliness. These are fun events to go to, but it still felt like there was something more, something deeper, and so I dug deep on money. Money psychology, money habits, communication about money, and I felt like this was a worthwhile endeavor for me, not only learning how to connect to my audiences, but to understand my own money psychology and heal some of my own money stories. And one big piece of research that I kind of fell in love with was from Harvard Business School, 3 data-supported ways money can buy happiness. I call this the money happy hat trick, and I was excited that I was already doing it. So 3 data-supported ways that money can buy happiness is prepaying for things, spending on experiences, and spending on other people. So super exciting that I was already doing these things and now I had some data to back it up. So prepaying, that means that you're saving up for whatever it is you're doing instead of going into debt, or you're buying gift certificates or tickets for something that's down the line. So you're kind of building up that happiness and that excitement, building surprises so that you have something to look forward to. The data showed that if you didn't get the bill at the end of a meal, like if you paid with a gift certificate or something like that, you reported more happiness and satisfaction from that meal or that vacation. So that's one way for you to use your money to buy happiness. You can go do stuff. Don't buy any more stuff. No sleep shopping. Go travel. Go to Ignite. Spend your money on experiences and creating memories. That's one of those other ways that you can use your money to buy happiness. And of course, spending on others. Pick up the tab. Surprise someone with gifts for no reason. Maybe some of you are old enough to remember paying the toll for the car behind you on the bridge. When the bridge toll was $1, those kinds of things are just little moments of happy. And of course, charitable giving. They say 3 to 10% of your income, $230 a month. I don't care what the amount is. Even if you think it's too small per month, whatever it is, just do it and think of it at scale. I call this my Netflix and chill moment in my events, where instead of going out and spending $100, have a Netflix and chill night. For example, if every single person here gave $100, that'd be $30,000 just in this room that could be raised for charitable purposes. And a little bonus one, you can use your money to buy back your time. So we know that people are happiest when they're spending time with the people that they love. So if you can find ways to outsource some things in your life so you have more time with the people that you love, you are winning at money. So back to the money hat trick here, because we have a little bit of a surprise in a moment. Big question is, can money buy happiness? We're gonna do a real live auction. So Brady's gonna come out in a moment, and I'm gonna challenge you because we have these 3 ways. So we're gonna prepay for something. We are going to spend on an experience, and we are going to spend on others. So Brady, why don't you come on out here, and we're gonna need to raise the house lights up a little bit so that I can see the audience. All right. And actually, fun fact, Brady and I met on a stage 10-ish years ago at one of my auctions. He was my MC. So why don't you tell us, you have the clicker?
All right, so we are, hopefully this will move on. Hey, Sasha, can you advance us? So in this bag, we have, first off, let's give a big hand to Emily.
Thank you.
And kind of our thinking here is, we have this amazing auctioneer here who is just magnetic on stage, and Ignite is just a mere shadow of what she can do. Let's have her get the juice. So we are going to have an auction right now. You get to prepay for a future of Ignite, and you get the experience of drinking bubbles, and you get to donate to a nonprofit. So specifically, the nonprofit is the Modern Family Institute. I'm sure a lot of you are either in non-traditional families or have non-traditional family or know people who have non-traditional families. This is San Francisco. And this is an institute that does research into the new family structure that a lot of Americans have, is doing policy work, and is doing mental health therapy around that. And one of the founders, he's Schacter, will be out in the lobby at the same table as Amanda and Elise. But this will also be a donation. So whatever we raise during the auction will go directly to the Modern Family Institute. And so you get 4 tickets to the next, to any Ignite we do this year, which would be 1 or 2, so sorry about that, within the bounds of San Francisco. And yeah.
All right, so you can stick around for the auction.
Okay, I'll stick around.
Yeah,
I
we'll
wasn't
stick
sure
around.
if I should back up or not.
Okay, so here's how this is going to work. Normally with my audiences, we would have bid paddles. We didn't want to go through that because it's kind of a hassle. So it's very bright. It's hard for me to see, but we're going to go ahead and have a real live. First of all, has anyone never been to a fundraising auction before in your life? There's a few people. It's okay. I'm not going to take your money yet. Okay, so we have a few newbies. So basically the way that an auction works is I'm going to throw out the number. If you want to bid that amount, you'll raise your paddle. I'm going to keep calling out the numbers. You keep raising your paddle. At some point, I'm going to say going once, going twice, sold. I'm going to point in your general vicinity, and you just need to make sure that you find Brady at the end of the situation so you can get the bag, and you make the donation, you do the whole thing. So real auction, having a little bit of fun. Bidding is going to start at $50. Here we go, $50, we go 50, 50, now 75, 75, 100, 125, 125, 150, 175, 175 right there. $200. This is where we're at 200 now, 225 to go 225. We had a 225 right up here. 225, got 200 over here, looking for $225 right here, 225 to go 250, would you go 250? Yeah, 250, would you go 2? So you go, oh, the other part of this is if you are not bidding, you can cheer on those who are. That's part of the participation. So 250, we're looking for $275. We've got 250 here in the front, looking for $275. There it is, 250. Would you go $300? Yeah, 300. Would you go 350? 350. Now $400. Now 450. Would you go 400? 450. Now 500. Would you go 500? 500. Now 550. Would you go 550? Now 600. Would you go 600? 600. Now 650. 650. Now $700. 7 now 8. Would you go 800? Now 9. 900. Got 999. 1,000. 1,000. 11. 1,100. Now 12. Would you go 12? Now 12. $1,100. Let's go. $1,100. Looking for $1,200. Who would go $1,200? We got $1,100 going once. You can keep going, but you're bidding against yourself. I won't make you do that. We're looking for $1,200 to keep this one going. Got $1,100 going once. $1,100 going twice. It's sold. $1,100. Thank you so much. That was a great night. Ignite, you know where your winner is. Thank you.
I know where she lives.
Okay, great. Thanks.
So thank you all very much. We've got another 7 amazing speakers coming back up here. So again, at the table, we have Heath, stand up real quick. One of the founders of Modern Family Institute. So if you want to learn more, he'll be out there. Elise and Amanda both have books, so please support them, and we'll flash the house lights when Adam Savage is coming on. So, see you soon.
Shopify helps you sell at every stage of your business. Like that ready to launch stage, that open for business stage, that sell it everywhere until you sell out stage, that count it up, ship it out stage, and that, wait, did we just hit 1 million orders stage? Whatever the stage, businesses that grow with Shopify.
Old Spice lotion with vitamin B3 gives you 24/7 moisturization.
With Cascade Platinum Plus, I load this and get this. Dare to dish differently.
Did you know most dish soaps don't remove all the grease, even with scrubbing?
What? I just cleaned those.
Try Dawn Platinum. It removes 99% of grease and food residue. That's why Dawn is trusted to save wildlife affected by oil. Dawn Platinum cleans to the squeak.
All right, everybody, we're going to get started. So in case you just got here, you are at Ignite. Ignite is a series of 5-minute talks. You just missed an amazing auction. You missed an amazing first set. But luckily for you, we have another set of amazing speakers. And we are getting started right now with an inventor, a raconteur, and a local. Please welcome Adam Savage.
I was filming at the Cal Academy last year, and I was in the backstacks looking at these drawers of beautiful golden finches with one of their scientists, and they told me a story that I immediately realized I had to tell, and I decided to tell it to you guys tonight. So, the first thing you need to know is that the California Academy of Sciences has one of the most important biological collections on the planet, with tens of millions of specimens. They are second in size only to the British Museum of Natural History. The Academy was founded in 1753 by 7 men who proposed to undertake, quote, a thorough and systematic collection of the world's rare and rich productions. This is their first office on Montgomery Street. The actual museum would open about 15 years later at the corner of Market and Grant Avenue. This mammoth was an internationally famous draw, and the museum was so successful in its early days that it rapidly outgrew its original home and needed to move to new digs. So 15 years later, they did, to a big building donated by James Lick's estate. He had donated all of his money to the California citizens to benefit them, quote, I'm not kidding, in one way or another. The interior of this building was, by all accounts, breathtaking. It was done in a Chicago style, which was a huge multi-story atrium with ornate ironwork and vignettes like this all over the place. The few photographs that survive from this time paint a tantalizing picture of how beautiful it was. And it's also worth noting that the idea, the concept of a museum at this point in time was still very much in flux. There wasn't a huge difference between a small museum and like a rich guy's living room. But while the Academy was beloved by its patrons, the respect from fellow institutions was still, like the British Museum of Natural History, they still weren't getting the respect they wanted, and the Academy wanted to prove itself as a worthy steward of scientific progress. So they endeavored to go on an expedition of a comprehensive survey of the Galapagos Islands. And amazingly, they were the first museum to think of this. Seriously, they sailed in early summer of 1905 on the schooner Academy, appropriately named, and the trip was, by every account, an unbelievable success. Experts in botany, geology, paleontology, entomology, malacology, that's mollusks, ornithology, and herpetology gathered specimens for well over a year. It was a breathtakingly comprehensive collection. And this was the trip that had yielded these drawers full of beautiful Galapagos finches I'd been looking at, by the way, each one carefully annotated in perfect, like 18th century script. It kills me. The expedition would be cut short, however, because on April 18th, 1906, the tectonic plates under California shifted, causing a 7.9 earthquake that pretty much destroyed San Francisco. The damage was unimaginable. 3,000 people died. When the fires finally burned out, more than half of San Francisco was homeless. 30,000 buildings had burned to the ground. And as for the museum's collection, it was almost a complete and total loss. What remained, the interior had been hit by fire. What remained, one mammoth tusk, some meeting minutes, and some membership notes were almost all that remained. Almost, but not quite. Early on in its tenure, the museum said they wanted to include women in their endeavors. Quote, they hugely approved of the aid of females in every department of natural sciences and invite their cooperation. Self-taught botanist Alice Eastwood here became the museum's first paid curator in 1881. And when the earthquake hit, Alice jumped into action, ran down to the museum, and using her skirt, no joke, she lowered object after object to a colleague below, saving specifically only type specimens, which meant each one was the first of its kind collection. She saved over 1,500 of them. When word of the tragedy When word of the tragedy reached the Galapagos, they rapidly made plans to return. It would take them 7 more months, but it was a much more difficult journey than the one out because now it was super important. This was the future of the Academy. The 17,000 objects in the Academy ship's hold were not just an expedition anymore. This was the Academy. They were literally sailing their own museum home. And when the ship returned, and as San Francisco slowly began to rebuild itself, the Schooner Academy moored in San Francisco Bay, opened its doors, and began to charge admission because it was, in fact, the Academy. And it did that until San Francisco Academy of Sciences could find its forever home, where it lives today, in Golden Gate Park, firmly and rightfully ensconced in the world's most important institutions. Its Galapagos exhibit is still being studied, and they are currently digitizing it to make it even more accessible. Thank you.
The second time I met him, he had a sword that he had made that week. Enough said. We found a phone in the bathroom. It looks greenish or purple, depending on the light. We'll have it down there. It's Brian's? Okay, what are you giving Modern Family Institute? No, just head over there. Oh, of course it's Brian's. Our next speaker is an intimacy coach specializing in BDSM. She has sex and teaches it, and apparently is pretty good at both. Please welcome Shelby Develin.
I am an excellent lover. I have certainly put in my 10,000 hours and counting. What sets me apart from the millions of teenage boys who have brazenly made this same declaration is that I actually know why I'm a good lover, and I want all of you to have the same information that I have so you can approach sex with the same confidence. Before I go any further, I want to say that nothing I say tonight means anything without enthusiastic consent. Got it? Good. Moving on. What gives me my sexual confidence is being a masterful dominant. I put the D in BDSM. Dominants are in control in a BDSM scene. The most pleasurable kind of dominance is truly a gift, and I am a giver. Many of you may be thinking, wait, I thought dominants do whatever they want and submissives have to do as they're told. This belief is reductive and it leads to bad sex. Think about it this way. If you have a terrible sexual experience with someone, are you super excited to have sex with them again? Fuck no. Why would this be any different in BDSM? Professional DOMs can charge thousands of dollars an hour. Do you think they have a devoted clientele because they're selfish? Absolutely not. DOMs provide the experiences that their clients crave, which is what keeps them coming back for more. So what do submissives really want? They want to be held in a fluffy cloud of undivided attention in which the whole world melts away and they get to focus on their pleasure. Submissives want someone else to be in charge of showing them a good time, and DOMs provide that good time. Here's a fun fact. For every 3 submissives, there's only 1 DOM. That's right. For every 3 submissives out there, there's only 1 of me. Whether you're dominant, submissive, or not at all interested in BDSM, the skills that make someone an excellent lover and a masterful DOM are the same. These skills apply to everyone who wants to have great sex. They are communication, understanding core erotic theme, curiosity, and pleasure. Number 1 is communication. When I have a new lover, I always ask them the same question before anything too exciting happens. How do you like to come? Now, the way someone answers this question gives me a lot of information. It tells me how they like to orgasm, if they can orgasm at all. It also tells me how well they know their bodies and how comfortable they are communicating about their pleasure. Our ability to proactively communicate about sex maximizes pleasure and helps us avoid barriers to pleasure. The second skill is understanding core erotic theme. Now, this is the emotional or psychological component of our desire. As a dom, I understand that everyone has their own motivations when it comes to BDSM and submission, so I can't treat everyone the same. Some people are very, very bad. They're so naughty that they need to be punished, while others want to be praised for doing every dirty thing I tell them to do. The third skill is curiosity. As the saying goes, knowledge is power. Most people don't know anything about sex. That's not their fault. Sex education in this country ranges from abysmal to horrifying. So unless you have put in some time filling in the gaps of your knowledge, there's crucial information that you are missing. I'm insatiably curious. I'm also a dom, and I want to be able to do all the things I want to do and anything someone might ask for. If you want more from sex, read a book, take a class, attend an Ignite talk. The final skill is pleasure. We are taught that pleasure is not inherently valuable, and the pursuit of pleasure is somehow a character flaw. If you want to be an excellent lover, you need to value pleasure for the sake of pleasure. Only when you can wholly embrace your pleasure and your desire can you embrace the pleasure and desire of someone else. I want to challenge everyone in this theater tonight to become sexually dominant by taking responsibility for your sexual experiences. At the very least, this means prioritizing pleasure, remaining very curious, and embracing the role emotions play in your desire. And then finally, I'm begging everyone, please, talk to your partners about sex. I promise you, it will be worth the effort. Since I'm a giver, I'm going to give you one more helpful piece of advice. Giving generously in bed does not always motivate people to give generously in return, but it fucking helps. If you would like to know more about dominance and BDSM, you can do so here at shelbydevelin.com. Thank you for listening to my talk.
Having gone to Catholic school, I'll share that my sex education was horrifying. Yep, it's better now. You just met my teacher. Our next speaker is Chiron Niv. She is a cognitive psychologist and apparently shares my penchant for reading Am I the Asshole on Reddit and making pretend it's research. Please welcome out Chiron.
Okay. Hi. There is a profound and very under-recognized opportunity in mental health, and that is psycholytic medicine. You've heard of psychedelic medicine. Think of that as a journey to insight, but psycholytic medicine, which is a lower dose of the same medicine, as a way to gain skills. Psychedelics are amazing, but they're not right for everybody. They can be very destabilizing. People can be hit in the face with truth they're not really ready for, and not everyone can afford to pick up the pieces after that. I'm Chiron Niv. I'm a cognitive psychologist, and I've spent the last couple of years exploring psycholytic ketamine specifically, partially because it's the only legal psychedelic, but also because it has some unique properties that no other psychedelics share. For example, it is a dissociative, and in large enough doses, psychedelic doses, it can lead to actual separation of body from mind, ego death, but in these lower psycholytic doses, you get a state that is undefended, open, spacious. People feel like they're bigger than their bodies. And the reason that's important is what psychologists call non-acceptance of emotion. That's the mechanism by which all negative emotions endure. Remember this, what you resist persists. To really heal a negative emotion, it does need to be fully felt. Why do we not feel them? Because they feel terrible. Negative emotions, think of depression as like a heavy sickness, anxiety, constricted, panicky. So it makes sense you don't want to feel it, but when you resist, you tense up and actually amplify those sensations. Here comes ketamine, gives you a spaciousness in which you can allow these sensations to wash over you without overwhelm, and they can resolve and release on their own. This also relates to what neuroscientists call memory reconsolidation. That's how all PTSD is actually treated. Trauma is actually a full brain network activation. When a traumatic memory is recalled, your brain simulates its original response, including the nervous system response. But with ketamine or any other way of feeling those sensations with safety, that memory can be stored again, decoupled from the nervous system response, so that when it's next retrieved, it's not retrieved with that same sense of panic. We now understand that there is a ubiquitous little t trauma phenomenon, or relational trauma, that we all experience early life stresses that disproportionately affect how we turn out, maternal depression, pure rejection. This suggests that many of us can be really helped by ketamine therapeutically. And the therapy world is starting to catch on. At last year's biggest psychedelic conference, one of the most attended sessions was a psycholytic ketamine session, plus an up-and-coming modality called internal family systems. But still, most therapists are not aware of this opportunity, and that's too bad for a couple of reasons. One, the risk for psychiatric and medical emergency is really, really low with psycholytics, suggesting that the training involved is much lesser than, say, with psychedelics. And two, the whole thing lasts about an hour. This can be incorporated into regular therapy sessions. This is important now because we're still in a mental health crisis and demand for therapy greatly outstrips supply. It would be a good idea to make each individual session more impactful. And I can tell you that it really is impactful. I first brought this into my meditation, and I found that I was getting into states that Buddhists call open awareness much more easily. And with that comes spontaneous emotional release and a sense of insight. So I was really curious about bringing it into my own therapy. And when I did, I was really blown away. That shift in perspective allowed me to connect a phobia I've had since the age of 5 to Holocaust trauma on both sides of my family. So for me, it's been a major breakthrough. And I'm really not the only one. Talking to patients over the last few years, I've heard again and again, this medicine helps me connect to my inner wisdom. I've really changed my relationship with my own pain and my own fear. I think we can say that we're now in the rising wave of the psycho-spiritual in terms of therapy modalities. Newer therapies like somatic experiencing or internal family systems no longer just look to correct your thinking like CBT. They're reaching deep down inside of you and trying to heal the pains that have really defined your life, often from childhood or, like in my case, from ancestral trauma. But it's not a panacea, as we recently saw this medicine at way higher doses than what I'm talking about, but still, or plus hot tubs, plus opioids, things can go wrong. And with prescriptions on the rise, it's important to educate patients about safety. So I would like to end on a call to action. Therapists, get interested in this. This is a patient who is open, undefended, prone to insight, and neuroplastic so that these insights stick. And scientists, help us study this to establish best practice for reduced risk and increased efficacy. And finally, let's remember that at the core of all of our biggest problems is human selfishness, aggression, indifference. Underneath that, there's always pain and fear, so we need all the most potent tools that we have to really correct the course of human history. And this is a big opportunity we shouldn't ignore.
Thank you very much, Chiron. Our next speaker, you may remember she rated a lot of Fox calls at the last Ignite. She's here to talk about her career as Derivacat. Please welcome out Kat Legue.
Don't be perfect. Oh, that's my whole presentation. My presentation isn't perfect either. Hey, there it is. Thank you, thank you. Let's get it restarted. Not everything goes perfectly all the time. Proves my point a little. Don't be perfect. Don't be perfect. Be amazing. This is wisdom from a 23-year-old who learned that imperfection is what actually allowed her to achieve her dreams. Have you ever tried something new? You were not good at it from the get-go, so you immediately gave up? How many lost projects or hobbies have been tossed to the side? We're often told that unless we have an innate talent for something, that unless we're good at it right from the get-go, that it's not worth trying. But I find that that kind of perfectionism holds us back more than it enables us. So a little bit about me. My artist name is Derivacat. I write songs for people that love stories. I've been doing this job full-time for about 3 years now, and my audience is just over 600,000 listeners right now. So a bit of a backstory. When I was a kid, I loved public performance. I did musical theater, piano singing lessons. I loved doing choir in high school, and I graduated from Berklee College of Music in Boston, studying music production and engineering in 2021. So the problem was, as I grew up and I decided that I seriously wanted to pursue music as a profession, it was no longer just a hobby for me. It was something I was judged for, graded on, and being raised in a household where success and achievement defined your life, I felt like I always needed to be perfect. So I'd stress over holding myself to impossible standards. I'd beat myself up over mistakes, failed tests, poor performances, and I ended up developing severe performance anxiety. When you place an expectation of perfection, anything that doesn't meet the mark is automatically failure. So I felt like if I couldn't do it perfectly, I shouldn't try at all. And it was a wildly unhealthy standard that I placed on myself. So how did I end up in songwriting? Well, since I was a kid, I had this dream of becoming a famous singer. But every time I wrote a song, it didn't sound like what I heard on the radio. It wasn't polished, it wasn't perfect, so I felt like anything I wrote was never good enough. If it wasn't perfect, there was no value. So I believed for most of my life that I sucked at writing songs and that nobody would ever want to listen to what I made. But I kept holding on to this dream. There was a part of me that didn't want to give up on it, and I kept writing songs, and I found in 2020 there were actually some songs that I really liked. And I thought, hey, maybe these aren't actually all that bad. Maybe I'll try writing another one. And at first, I was just doing it for me, just to try it out, just to allow myself those baby steps into a world I had never thought I belonged to. There was a key change in mindset. I would tell myself over and over again while writing that it didn't matter if it didn't sound like what was on the radio. As an artist, I share my view of the world through my selected medium. No one can create exactly like me because no one else has lived my exact experiences. Therefore, everything I create inherently has value, whether or not it meets an objective goal. Songwriting is my form of expression, the way that I see the world, the stories that only I can tell. My craft isn't perfect, but my perspective still gives it value. But imagine if I had never allowed myself to create something awful so that I could learn from it and create something better. If I had never given myself the grace or the patience to fail. If I had always strived for perfection instead of being honest and sharing from my soul. Maybe my life would be wildly different if I chose to be perfect. But instead, I choose to be amazing. I allow myself to be imperfect because imperfection is a vital aspect of my craft. Failure is necessary to know what success is. The people in my life know that I fail all the time. I struggle, I stress, I fall down, but I get back up again because it's my resilience that got me to where I am. I have worked hard to learn to improve, but to also learn to be kind to myself. I love my job. I love telling my stories. I love sharing songs from my heart. I love waking up every day being amazing. So let me ask you this. Next time you feel like you're not good enough at something or like you want to give up from the get-go, what would you choose? Would you rather be perfect or amazing? Because I know what I'd choose. Thank you.
Thank you, Kat. Or to paraphrase Kevin Kelly, would you rather be one of many or the only? Our next speaker worked on 3D printing in the Obama administration and is now working on regenerative agriculture in the pursuit of better tasting eggplants. That was for you, Juan. Please welcome out Leanne Glu.
Oh shit. A good tomato is hard to find. The cereal aisle at the grocery store literally makes me cry, and I miss the days when blueberries tasted like blueberries. 200 years ago, half of you were farmers. So we made the system of industrial agriculture so that we could get Mother Nature to feed us at scale, and we mechanized and systematized. And I'm grateful for this system because it gave us time to do other things. Now you're a farmer. The rest of you can make other things like cars and cell phones and vibrators and AI. So thank you, industrial agriculture. But what happens when we do an industrial system? Can we reimagine it? And I'm going to tell you a short story, albeit slightly truncated, to explore those questions, starting with soil. A wise farmer once told me that good soil doesn't taste like, good soil feels like chocolate cake. It's spongy, and there's things in it like microbes and bugs and bacteria and fungus. But too often in our farms, we don't see soil, we see dirt. So 100 years ago, we started with nitrogen fertilizer. And we said to our farmers, we've got this thing, and it's going to help your crops yields get bigger. And farmers were like, yeah, that sounds amazing. But it turns out that nitrogen fertilizer is kind of like giving a 3-year-old steroids. Plants get weak, actually. And weak plants are more susceptible to bugs. So now we have a bug problem, but we've got pesticide. Turns out that pesticide actually kills both the good bugs and the bad bugs. And this messes up the microbiology in the soil in the same way that antibiotics make you get a yeast infection. But don't worry, we've got fungicide. This will kill the overgrowth. It also turns out that weeds are kind of like nature's probiotic, and they come in to replenish the soil. But farmers don't like weeds, and if you've ever harvested lettuce, you know they're a pain. So we've got herbicide. So now, we have killed all the good bugs and the bad bugs. We've killed all the fungus. We've killed the bacteria. The weeds can't do their job. Our chocolate cake, moist soil is looking more like dirt. But what does it matter? Plants are still growing, still food in the grocery store. Well, soil retains water. Dirt does not. So when in times of drought, our plants are thirsty, and in times of rain, like we've seen, we get flooding, and the dirt washes away. Another issue is carbon. In less than 60 years, we're going to lose all of our topsoil. Soil captures carbon. We have a climate solution right under our feet. Healthy soil also is full of micronutrients. Our produce doesn't have the same level of micronutrients and vitamins that it did 70 years ago. This could be why your schnozberries don't taste like schnozberries anymore. So we have solutions for this system. We're making purple tomatoes that are genetically modified to taste better. And we're using climate-smart robots to use less fertilizer and less water. But these are solutions for a broken system, one that largely grows 4 crops: corn, soy, wheat, and rice. It's part of the reason why I cry when I go to the cereal aisle in the grocery store. It's time for a better system, one that imagines how we can design regeneratively and put microbiology back into the soil. We need to do things like intercrop and grow diverse polyculture. Small farms are already doing this, but how do we mechanize a system in a symbiotic way so that we can grow regeneratively at scale? This is the vision of the farm of the future. And we already have a lot of the tools we need, things like bioreactors that can create liquid compost, But there's a lot of Lego blocks out there, but we need to make new machines that can make complex systems. And we have the skill set in here to make those complex and customized solutions so that we can all have a better tomato. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leanne. We're now on to our penultimate speaker. She thinks she's not competitive despite winning the auction. Please welcome out Rose Blumen.
I'm not competitive. Hey everyone, so I'm gonna, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. That's okay, I made the most of it. I did a dance. All right, let's try that again. It's me? All right, so I'm gonna start with what we do know. Our democracy is broken and barely keeping up. Media and society are polarized, further adding to the dysfunction. And I'm not just talking about the US. Democracy is at risk around the world, with about half the world's countries experiencing democratic backslide. And we haven't figured out how to govern social media yet, but now we have a new factor in the mix. The AIs are here, and they're the most powerful tool since the atomic bomb. They can help us, they can hurt us, and we better figure it out quickly before democracy falls apart. It's a lot, but I'm not here to be a doomer. I'm here to tell you about a new idea called Plurality that gives me hope, and tell you why I see it as a North Star for the future of democracy and technology. So Plurality is an emerging field focused on human cooperation at scale. It's a social movement, a science, tools, technology, mindsets, cultures that help us connect across our differences. Plurality is actually the norm in biology, like healthy ecosystems and even the human body. It's made up of trillions of human, bacterial, and fungal cells all working together, and we can cultivate that in our social systems too. Let me give you an example in terms of governance. We moved from a top-down system to a democracy with a focus on one person per vote. Plurality would help us upgrade our democracy so we can agree more and disagree more productively. Okay, let's look at some examples. You've probably seen this one. It's a bridging tool called Community Notes that helps highlight content that's agreed on by groups of users that typically disagree with each other. So it's basically depolarizing. There's also a platform called Polis that does a similar thing at scale, so a whole society can participate in one conversation that's being driven toward rough consensus. Citizen Assembly is basically the in-person version of that, where you get a representative group of citizens together, get past polarized debate, get deeper into issues, and help craft policy. Here's another example is public goods funding platform Gitcoin. They've helped raise $56 million for things like open source software, scientific research, and public art. They use a system called quadratic funding that helps distribute their matching funds. Instead of it being dollar per dollar, more goes to projects with a lot of small donors as opposed to those with just a few big donors. There are also new voting systems like ranked choice and approval voting that help reduce the spoiler problem and reduce polarization in our elections. Okay, I'm gonna tell you a story about Audrey Tang, who got involved in politics in Taiwan in 2014 during their sunflower movement. It was kind of like Occupy over there. And she helped the protesters get organized and broadcast their message. Instead of putting her in jail, the Taiwanese government promoted her, and now she's the digital minister, helping to bring transparency and citizen engagement across the whole country. She helped develop a platform called vTaiwan that incorporates tools like Polis and Talk to the City, so citizens can petition the government directly. About half of all citizens are signed up and a quarter are active users, which is amazing. And I wonder what it would take for us to get there too. Plurality isn't just about politics. It's about all kinds of things like social identity systems, constructive communication, and even collaborative creation events like Burning Man. The story of plurality is still being written, literally. Audrey and economist Glenn Weil are writing an open source book that you can check out and even join in writing it at plurality.net. Why should you care? I think it's going to take a movement toward plurality to help get our planet-sized society functioning. And that's what we need in order to tackle some of our biggest challenges like global poverty and climate change. That's why I helped start a nonprofit called Plurality Institute. We're a network for academic and industry researchers who are studying plurality from across disciplines. And you can check out our website at plurality.institute, and I hope that you will adopt plurality as your North Star and join us. Thank you.
Man, I have to fire myself from doing slides. Our final speaker is just going to open with an amazing story, and I'm just going to let her walk out and tell it. Please welcome Jamie Joyce.
Have you ever made a really stupid decision that impacted the trajectory of your entire life? Have you made a decision that you couldn't undo? I did, when I was just a little girl. When I was a little girl, I really wanted to grow up to be intelligent. And because of all these stereotypical depictions of smart characters on TV wearing glasses, I thought I had to have glasses in order to be intelligent. But that's not true. But what I learned was an idea I never heard before, which is that you can get glasses if you have damaged eyesight. So my goal became to ruin my eyesight, so I could get glasses and then become more intelligent. So I went outside and I stared into the sun. And I stared into the sun for so long I made myself legally blind, like I still am today. The problem was I didn't suddenly become more intelligent when I got glasses. And when this horrible truth dawned on me, I was hit with the epiphany. Information is extremely powerful. And if you believe in incorrect information, it can impact your entire life, like it did mine. Information is profound and precarious. As an adult, I would describe what happened is that I believed in unsound logical reasoning. That logic led to a bad decision. So now, searching for truth, reasoning well, and enabling good decisions is what I'm obsessed with. Because I realized bad decisions aren't just personal. They don't just impact one life at a time. When we're talking about political decisions, we're actually talking about hundreds of millions of people and the trajectory of our future. So, I founded a nonprofit organization that models reasoning from different points of view. We create databases that map arguments and claims so that we can see from all sides, which is slightly ironic and also a lot of work. We once created this model, which was 5,862 points across 9 different positions about a complex California nuclear energy debate. And it took 8,000 manual human research hours. Now we're automating our work with AI, compressing human hours into AI minutes. But wait, can we actually do that? Don't large language models hallucinate sometimes? Yes, and we can mitigate that, and I don't know if you know this, but you are too. My understanding is that we're all kind of hallucinating right now. What we think is reality is our brain taking external stimulus and converting it into an internal experience based on what we predict. Let me show you an example. Ready? You see these red strawberries? They're actually greenish gray. You just expect to see red, so you do. Here's another example, except this time we're not all going to hallucinate the same thing. Ready? See this dress? Some of you see it as black and blue. Some of you see it as gold and white. Why? My understanding is that the predominant theory that explains why we see different colors, even though the image is the same, is because our brain is expecting to see a certain color and then making us see it. Maybe not unlike how a large language model is just predicting the next word in an answer. Sometimes we can't trust our senses because hallucination gets in the way. Sometimes, and maybe in the future, AI is going to actually make it very, very difficult to figure out what's real and not real. Deepfakes, AI-generated content may make it really difficult to figure out what is the truth. But, like I said, the other side of that coin is that AI can help us search for truth by saving us thousands of research hours. But the problem is, in searching for truth, at least I think, is that most of us believe we've already found it. Just like most of you are so sure that you're seeing those red strawberries. And of all the political decisions that we may make that could affect hundreds of millions of people and the trajectory of the future, our decisions about AI fall into that category. Because just like information is power, AI is also power. And we're starting to get very serious about who gets to have access to that power. So my organization is actually mapping debates about AI itself. Will it hold ultimate peril, ultimate promise? A little of both? What should we do? I think we should look deeply into the logic of these debates about AI. Because you don't have to stare into the sun to be blind. And you should ask yourself, how do I know this is true? Is this logically sound? Or is there something I may be hallucinating, like both humans and AI tend to do? Thank you. I'm sorry for this.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all of our speakers.
Thank you to our volunteers who helped put this event on.
Please give them a huge hand.
Yeah. And thank you to the Brava Theater as well.
Yeah, thank you to the Brava for having us back.
Thank you to all of you for being here. It's amazing to have a packed theater. We're going to do probably another show in the fall, most likely. So hopefully we'll see you all there.
And please join us at Zombie Village, and thank you to Zombie Village for offering up space for us to all hang out. So head on to 441 Jones Street. And we have a phone. Reminder, there's a phone.